What began as a call for transparency has turned into political whiplash. The Department of Justice is moving to release portions of Jeffrey Epstein's grand jury testimony, but only after a storm of pressure, silence, shifting narratives, and growing revolt within Trump's own base. Today, we break it all down: how we got here, what's inside the files, who's pointing fingers, and why this story refuses to die.
The Justice Department asking a Manhattan court to make years-old grand jury testimony related to the Jeffrey Epstein case public. Paula Reed.
Really interesting. I wanted to see what argument they were going to make here to this judge. They're arguing that all of this is in the public interest. And I will say the Justice Department has not gotten a lot right on the messaging about this effort. But here it appears that the Attorney General Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche, they're at least striking the right tone. Look, I don't know if this is going to work, but what they're writing here, they're saying, quote, public officials, lawmakers, pundits, and ordinary citizens remain deeply interested and concerned about the Epstein matter. They are noting the fact that in other places they have released portions of grand jury transcripts after concluding that the Epstein case qualifies as a matter of public concern. After all, Jeffrey Epstein, they say, is, quote, the most infamous pedophile in American history. The facts surrounding the Epstein case tell a tale of national disgrace. They argue the grand jury records are thus critical pieces of an important moment in our nation's history. They also argue
the DOJ claims it's about public interest. They argue the case qualifies as national history, a disgrace that deserves light. And yes, Epstein is gone, but the people who enabled him or covered for him may not be. This is why the public still demands names. So what's actually being released? Only a fraction. Not the client list, not the financial records, not the autopsy files. Just a slice of sealed grand jury testimony, heavily redacted and sanitized. But here's the twist. This push didn't come from Democrats. It came from inside Trump's circle, by people he once empowered. And now it's unraveling under Attorney General Pam Bondi, who's caught between MAGA demands and DOJ red tape. That's the heart of it. Bondi and her allies pushed for the files to be released, raising expectations of explosive revelations. Now they say there's nothing there, just Epstein, Maxwell, and sealed settlements. But the base isn't buying it. They were promised a reckoning. What they got was redactions and rhetoric.
Pam Bondi has been dealt a tough hand because the heads of the FBI, Dan Bongino and Kash Patel, have been promoting this conspiracy theory for a while amongst the MAGA base. And now they're in power and they have to face facts. It is just a conspiracy theory. Epstein killed himself, and there is no client list. But their ravenous followers, the people on the far right, they think this is a big Democratic cabal led by Bill Clinton and Bill Gates to traffic young girls. And they won't be satisfied unless they get the goods. Well, there aren't the goods as they believe, but there are files that have not been released, and that's the tension here.
And yet the frustration isn't just about the files. It's about who's protecting who. Trump continues to praise Pam Bondi, but behind the scenes, the White House is leaking frustration. MAGA influencers are furious, and conservative media is getting pressured to move on. Transparency has become a trap. If they release too little, it looks like a cover-up. If they release too much, it invites lawsuits, chaos, and real political fallout. Bondi's walking a tightrope, and Trump's off-script comments aren't helping. That brings us to the real question. What's still hidden? Brown, the Miami Herald journalist who helped reopen this case, says if she could have one tranche of data, it'd be Epstein's finances. Follow the money. That's where the real list might live.
The Justice Department only focused on prosecuting first Epstein, and then when he, died, then Maxwell. It was a very narrow investigation. They didn't go into anything beyond that. They didn't go into any other aspect of Jeffrey Epstein's sex trafficking ring. So most of the information that I know about is probably information that's already out there that we know that has been revealed during trial. The point I wanted to make is, he also said there's no list. I agree that there probably isn't a list, but my understanding is that Epstein kept files, and he did keep files on people. I don't know whether the Justice Department got their hands on those files, but Epstein had some kind of records. It might not have been, and I don't believe it was, in a formal list that everybody wants to refer to. So I just think that Epstein told different people different things, and it's hard to know really, what's true and what's not true.
So where does that leave us? With redacted transcripts, sealed lawsuits, and a DOJ caught between public outrage and legal procedure. Trump says the Attorney General should release what's credible. Bondi says the memo speaks for itself. And the MAGA base? They say the swamp is still full. There may be no Epstein client list, but there is a credibility crisis, one that started with promises of exposure and ended with a few names in a file that no one asked for. No side is happy, no truth feels settled, and no one, not even Trump, seems in control of this narrative anymore. If something new drops, we'll be here to break it down. No spin, no team, just truth on tape. Hit subscribe for more real explanations of the stories no one wants to talk about, because at TFN, silence isn't journalism.